and it just feels really silky smooth.
What's going on, guys? Today I want to talk about saddles. Now, over the past 15 years of cycling, I've tried over 10 saddles, including the Cell SMP, the Cell Italia. I've tried the Specialized Power saddle, Specialized Toupe, and Physique Arione saddle. And in this video, I want to break down some of my favorite recent saddles that I've bought very cheaply from AliExpress and what I consider my all-time favorite saddle. I'm not sponsored by any of these saddle companies, these are just my honest thoughts. So when looking for a perfect saddle, there's pretty much 6 criteria I'm looking for. I want the saddle to be lightweight for racing, ideally under 200 grams and closer to 100 grams. I want it to have a 3D printed comfortable surface or another comfortable material on the top. I like it to have a cutout to alleviate pressure on the peritoneal area. I want it to be sturdy so that I don't feel like it'll ever break if I go over a pothole. I want it to have an upwards slight curve at the back rather than being completely flat. And ideally, I want it to be under 80 US dollars because saddles can get quite expensive, but there are some amazing deals on AliExpress where you can get amazing saddles at a cheap price. With all that in mind, here's my review of 4 AliExpress saddles in my quest to find the perfect saddle. Although saddle choice is very individual, I'm hoping that this video can help you to find your perfect saddle as well.
So I'm going to start with these saddles. These are the same saddle, and they're from a brand called Riot. Okay. So these saddles have a nice 3D printed surface, which is generally something I look for in a saddle because I feel like it just locks your sit bones in a bit better and it prevents you from slipping around on the saddle. It's also quite comfortable as well. In terms of the weight of this saddle, the saddle is 173 grams. So it is quite a lightweight saddle. It does have a full carbon rail and carbon body construction. The saddle also has a nice little tilt towards the back, which I personally prefer because the flat saddles I find it's hard to get leverage. Whereas the ones that have the little curve, you can kind of put your sit bones at the back and push off against them, which I really like. Overall, these saddles, I've had about 3 of them in total. I've got these two, and I had another one on my bike that was stolen. These are very solid saddles. The construction is very rigid. Like if I put all my weight to try to deflect it, it doesn't budge at all. Whereas some AliExpress saddles that I have purchased have cracked or have kind of deflected very heavily the first time I put weight on them. But these saddles are very solid and they're actually being sold by an Australian online retailer called Seacache. So the fact that the big brand is putting their name to this exact saddle means that it's a very reliable saddle. But there's one big problem I had with this saddle, which meant that I had to see the doctor, okay, because I was a bit worried, which is that because they have quite a small cutout, and because I personally have quite wide sit bones in terms of my pelvic anatomy, I was getting a lot of pressure on my perineal area. I was actually a bit worried that something was wrong in down there. Fortunately, nothing was wrong down there, except I was just getting a bit of sort of like tissue damage because when I would sit like in a very aerodynamic position with a flat back, I would have a lot of pressure from these ridges would be pressing into my perineal area, which was causing me pain, which is why I swapped to this saddle. So this saddle is from a brand, another Chinese brand called Placellus. You can buy this on AliExpress, but I got this one because it came with my Tantan bike. And the beauty of this saddle is that it has a bigger cutout. Okay, you can see compared to the Riot, it has a much wider cutout. So when I'm sitting flat back with my pelvic bones here in the arrow position, I feel a lot more comfortable. Okay. It also has a nice 3D printed mesh. I actually prefer this one over the Riot one. It's a bit softer and it's a bit smoother. And personally, I prefer this one. In terms of the weight of this one, we can see that it's roughly the same weight. So it's 100, yeah, about 170 grams. So there's not really a weight difference. Um, and it's also a very solid construction as well. I've got this one on my giant TCR bike at the moment. And put in terms of the ride, I've put thousands of Ks in them, no problem. In terms of the Placellus, I've done quite a few hundred Ks, no issues at all. Now, this saddle is also from Riot, and I was very hyped about this one. Okay. First of all, it's ultra light. Okay. It's 97 grams. So it's about 70 grams lighter than these other saddles. It doesn't have the 3D printed surface, but it does have this kind of like fake leather surface, which is a bit grippy. But also, according to their marketing, it's supposed to be more aerodynamic. And I don't have data for this. I don't know if anyone's actually put different saddles in a wind tunnel, but I could believe it based on like the profile of the railings. You can see that it does have more of an aerodynamic profile in the railings compared to say these saddles. So, you know, I would believe it's more aerodynamic, but there's one big problem with this, okay, which is that it's not sturdy. If I put the camera down here, and I don't know if you can see this, but it's actually deflecting, like the whole saddle. And did you hear that? It's also cracking as well. Okay, so that's not a good sign. So unfortunately, this one I'm gonna have to return. I don't feel comfortable riding it at all, just because as an 85 kilogram rider, I just feel like it's not going to support me and it could crack in half at any moment. Whereas the other ones, I've very comfortably, I've done sprints, climbing, descending, no issues at all. I feel confident. This one, I don't feel confident in. So the final saddle I want to review is my all-time favorite, okay? And this is the one I've currently got on my bike. This saddle is also from Riot. So the third saddle from Riot. This one's very interesting because the front half has like a nice smooth carbon sort of design, but the rear sort of third of the saddle has this 3D printed mesh, okay? And this is a very innovative technique. I've never seen another saddle actually do this, but I think it's genius. And let me explain why. The 3D printed mesh kind of locks in your sit bones. So when you're sitting back here, let's say you're on a climb or even in the aero position, I usually put my sit bones about there. It kind of locks in your sit bones. It also has quite a big cutout, which is nice. But the beauty of this saddle is that when your thighs, because when you cycle, your thighs kind of rub against the nose of the saddle to some extent, okay? Um, my thighs are quite wide, so maybe that's why I do get a bit of rubbing. But compared to these saddles, where the rubbing caused a bit of friction with the side of the saddle, this one has a very smooth nose. So I feel like when my thighs are rubbing here, there's a lot less friction and it just feels really silky smooth. Like the sensation is really nice riding the saddle. In terms of the design of the saddle, it does have a bit of a curve at the back, which I like just for a bit of support. It's a very solid saddle. Like I can put my whole weight on the saddle and it doesn't deflect at all. Like this one's a very rigid saddle. In terms of the weight, I haven't personally weighed it, but going by their website, it's also a lightweight saddle. So this one, I should say, I've only done a couple of rides with it. So I've only just started using this, but first impression is that this is my favorite saddle of all time. And I also just think it looks so futuristic and cool as a saddle. And I love the innovation that this company has been doing with this saddle as well. So guys, I hope that's useful. I'll give more updates as I ride this more. I'll let you know if my thoughts change. But so far, this saddle is my all-time GOAT saddle. And I'm definitely going to keep enjoying riding this one.